hero's journey, how has that come to express itself to you and also to brothers and sisters that you have been helping along the path of spiritual enlightenment?
Oh man, that's a great question. I have to point you out because I feel like years ago, I watched you when I would go to Queen of Four, which is your Mother Earth. She used to have her things in Brooklyn. There was one in particular where I went in and you and I were sitting next to each other and she was going through her presentation. Baba Pa'ul was there. See, I had to blow you up. Supernova Islam was probably about 40 or 50 pounds lighter than he is now. Real thin
Yeah.
dude, but very, very powerful energy. And, you know, we were talking in between and whatnot. So I don't know if you remember this, though, but I do. So you went up on stage and then you gave this, for lack of a better word, a sermon that was so punctuated. And I stood there. I was like, wow, this is powerful. And then at the end, we all got up and got our liquid peppermint, and we were just building. And then Baba Paor explained to us, well, you know, about the ibis bird and certain things that we need to do. And he was so loving. He was so rich with what he was doing. The power that I got from Queen of Four that day. And then when you got up there and you just, and even all of it was beautiful. So I say that in acknowledgement to say, even with you, I've watched your maturity. I've come to your house over there when you used to live in Brooklyn, and you were the one that taught me about Nicki Minaj. I did not know who she was. You were like, what? Nicki Minaj, you were doing your videos and all of this stuff. I didn't find out about Nicki Minaj until years later. That's how behind I was. So when I finally got a taste of it, I said, oh, Supernova Islam was on it years ago. You know what I mean? Like you mastered that segment years ago. It was celeb, but we have to talk about that later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you said you made a decision to stop what you were doing and you went to serve us in the military, I sat back and I said, wow, this is, and I knew exactly what you were doing. I said, when he comes back, he's going to come back with so many cubes of information and training. I felt like you were training for that your whole life.
Yeah.
And when you brought it back, I couldn't wait to talk to you about your experiences, right? You've gone through so many different stages and you're in so many different spheres and circles and arenas. I said, okay, when he gets back, we have to talk about that. And the reason I start with that, Supernova Islam, is because you are you're a great example of what it is to be on the hero's journey. And this is for all of us who are watching. The hero's journey is a very, very personal journey that everyone must take. I came up in the 70s and the early 80s, so some of the really big blockbusters of my time, I remember 1977 in particular, there were two movies that came out that year. It was Superman and Star Wars, and I saw them both. Even Saturday Night Fever, which came out that year as well.
It's interesting you say that. Yeah, that's the year I came to the planet. So that's interesting you say that. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
77.
Okay, and let me tell you, it was a great. So you came in the 77, right?
77. Yeah.
It was a powerful year, man. It also was an interesting year because there was the Summer of Sam that was going on. I think Elvis died in that year, and I remember it well. But those movies in particular, seeing it as a young man, I think I was only 10 at the time. I was watching the hero's journey. And it's something that all of us resonate with because there's something that I call it the divine spark that is buried underneath another culprit called the human default program. The human default program is like the Blob. You remember the Blob?
I remember the Blob.
That movie?
Yeah.
The Blob is the human default program that takes the divine spark, eats it up, and the divine spark is right in the center of the Blob of the human default program, which encapsulates the things that we learn in the institutionalization of school, work, college, prison, jail. All of these things are industrializing. It's training us to be Autobots, right? Take orders, do this, don't do that. Dame Dash, shout out to Dust Poppington. He had a really good video where he talked about how learning is a very unnatural thing.
Why would you put a kid in a room behind a desk when the sun is out for their whole entire childhood? Not put them in front of water or ocean or anything that inspires them. Dim lights. If you notice, schools, jails, and hospitals all look exactly the same. Why wouldn't it be in something inspiring? Because it's a program to keep us controlled. When you have to have order of masses, you have to have them all doing the same thing so you can know what they're doing, you can monetize what they're doing, you know how they're doing it. At a very early age, I was like, yo, all this y'all teaching me, none of it makes me think I'm number one. It would make me, if I believe that y'all are teaching me, that I'm number two, that I could never be a boss. They never teach us how to pass laws and lobby or be politicians, and that's the only way to make change. It has to be strategic. When a cycle continues over and over again without change, it's either insanity or it's intentional. Somebody's losing, which is us, but somebody's winning, which is them, and they're controlling the game.
So he got that from some of the great predecessors that have spoken about how we sit in class with these artificial lights for 8 hours a day. And a lot of times it's very unnatural. It's an unnatural way to learn. So part of us rebels against that assault and attack. Jawanza Kunjufu, who wrote Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, really went into great detail about how we resist that. And as a result of that rebelling, we're classified as special education, which is an insult, right? We just learn a different way. So the hero's journey is us constantly pushing away the detriment and the insistence and the programming of the existential, spherical, dynamic mandates that I believe the elites are very, very adamant about. They took Aether off of the periodic table, I believe, in 1908. Aether was one of the highest enigmatic structures that science really didn't know how to reconcile. But in the 50s, when John D. Rockefeller realized, and I believe that he was kind of put on by another very sinister, diabolical school of thought that said, hey, there's an inexhaustible amount of fossil fuel that you can make money from and control the world. So he got a lot of the homeopathic things that our grandparents, and God's bless your grandmother. I know she just transitioned, and my condolences to you, King. And I hope that she's opening up a lot of doors for you in the movement on the other side. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I feel like old knowledge in conjunction with the family structure being under attack has dumbed us down to a level to where common sense is no longer common. We don't have the presence of the great grandmother in the home like we used to. We don't have exposure to the great great grandparents or the grandparents even, because they've taught us how to push them in nursery homes. Now, if the grandparent wants to go to a nursing home, that's their choice. But we should not have it built into our family structure that that's a thing that we're going to look forward to, because now there's a disconnect with the children and the knowledge that they possess that they got from their grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. There's a major disconnect with our youth today, going back 2 generations, because they didn't have that. Back to the hero's journey. So with that being said, it's important for us to realize that there is something inside of us, which is the divine spark, that's constantly trying to push its way out of the blob. And it's not an arrogant thing. Doesn't mean that we have the God complex, but we have a divine complex that wants to make us free, that wants to ascend us and bring us higher. And when I say free, I'm talking about with your health. And you teach people about having good health. You have your super greens and you have your book, Man Heal Thyself. Your mother has a book. You have a ministry that's not only based on healing ourselves in many different ways, but that's a big part of it, because so many of our people are diseased. I actually saw that disease with Bernie Mac and John Singleton right before they left this life. You remember that?
I remember
You
that.
saw it in their eyes, right?
Yeah.
You saw how they were like, there was a lot of pressure in there and their eyes were bulging outward. The moment I saw that with Bernie Mac, I said, oh, it's only a matter of time.
On his way out.
I saw the same thing with, you know what I'm saying? Same thing with John Singleton. So we have to get healed first in our bodies, because this is the avatar that we have to interface with this life in. And the hero's journey is part of that. You reclaiming the divinity that is buried inside of you, and also reclaiming the divine birthright that your ancestors know about, because we don't come into this life with that type of gnosis. Some of us remember fragments of it. I've talked to a lot of people that say, hey, you know, I remember before I was born, I was before these very, very tall beings. And the only thing I remember is they kept asking me, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yes. So I did a live Supernova Slam about 2 weeks ago, and I talked about something called bright moments. There are a lot of us who are really struggling right now, and they don't know the purpose of their life. They don't know why they're here. They're wondering, no matter what I do, I don't make enough money. I have to couch surf and live with these people. I'm making the best of nothing. And we, as a melanated people, are adept at that. And unfortunately, that's also part of the journey. But there are things that can help us along the way. When I look at the hero's journey, the best description that I can give it is you overturning your own limitation, you accepting and learning about your divinity, what it means to you, how to incorporate it into your life, living as a divine being while you are breathing the breath of a human is the apex of what the mission is all about. There is a very long list of souls from this first, second, maybe the lower third octave dimension and other places who have lost their planets, and they've come here because they realize that this is the greatest college in this section of the galaxy. And they realize by living 5 lifetimes, they can have the mastery of many, many thousands of years of education because everything exists on this planet in terms of overturning the limitation. Having this particular body allows you to be in that college.
What could we do to raise the vibration of the world?
You have to start with yourself, like the man in the mirror, like Michael Jackson said. A lot of us want to be dynamic in our social societal setting at work, at home, but it's better to be an example or to lead by example. I have people in my family that look and, they can quietly see that I'm doing better than I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and I don't need to beat anybody in the head. I used to do that. I used to be very aggressive with how I attacked people, but I realized it wasn't the best use of my energy. So my humble prayer was, whoever will get the most out of what it is that I individually have to offer uniquely, let them come forward, bring them to me, and I will give the very best possible representation of Sri Master Gano Grills to them. One of the reasons why I ask people to address me that way when we're dealing with spirituality, because it automatically allows me to give you what Sri Master is about. Lots of things that I've studied, lots of things that I've mastered, a lot of things I've learned by accident. My students teach me a lot. My students, initiates, and adepts constantly bring me things that allow me to learn more about who I am, who they are, and my responsibility to humanity and what we could do together. So it's really important for us to start with ourselves and become the person that you deserve to look like, sound like, smell like, dress like. The fantasy of the highest person that you've dreamt about being should be something that you work on a little bit every day. And if you looked at me 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I'm still the same person underneath the surface, but I've matured in leaps and bounds. I still address and I call to my name or I respond to it, but what I've learned is far, far greater. So by becoming the best version of yourself in the light, of course, and let's please dismiss allowing darkness, because the brother panics and the Bobby Hematites have this, the Baphomets, they love to say, well, the light and the dark go together, and they justify and welcome darkness and chaos into the luminous lane. It
No,
doesn't belong there. The two
it doesn't.
do not go
But
together.
I do see it takes a it takes higher level practitioners to understand really what they were speaking on.
Right.
I think what they were speaking on is for inner chamber work. It's really was not supposed to be for the public,
Hmm.
because the public, most of the people are dealing with serious dense chaos, and so when you hear those master teachers speak on that, it almost seems like they would justify them being in that state. And so if there's no distinction in the ministry, then it's just one. And that's how a lot of the people that listen to that take it. They don't know how to make a distinguish. They don't know how to
Right.
understand the responsibility in the chaos, and what the hero's journey is to overcome that, is to be the hero that actually overcomes the SETI and nature of yourself. I'm not going to digress, but thank you for that
Right.
clarity.
So
Um,
I'm just saying that, being in the light means that you are dismissing any kind of
Absolutely,
darkness. And I don't mean melanin.
absolutely.
Because I was angry. I was really angry. And I was going to use all of the knowledge that I had, and I was going to destroy mankind. Right out of Marvel. I was like, yeah, I was.
Right.
Darkness is the absence of order. Power comes with a responsibility of really resplendent judgment, and real power comes to those people who have mastered themselves to the degree that you've been audited, and all of us are under a daily audit. I was in Hoboken the other day. I just come from a massage, and around the corner I went to get some sorbet. I gave this guy $20 and I bought something. Now my order was $15. He gave me back $25, and I looked at it and I said, so you may want to count this again. This isn't right. I owe you $16. You gave me back $26. And he was like, and I knew he just did not know I don't know what he was doing behind the register, but things like that happen to me all of the
Mm.
time. Well, I'm giving back money, or you gave me too much, or hey, I didn't pay for this. I could have walked out. It was $150, and you are constantly audited. And the reason that happens, people, is because you are slated and destined to have more power. When power comes from the spiritual world, it is not licensed to you until it is a certainty that you can arbitrate it and wield it responsibly through and
Mm.
through. So when you receive those tests, it is imperative that you pass it with flying colors by being as righteous as possible. The spiritual world is not really going to tell you that through scripture. It'll make it very vague, like the 42 confessions of Ma'at, or what it says in the 10 Commandments. Do unto others as you would have unto others do unto you. But what's really behind it is, if you're strong enough and courageous enough to do what is right all of the time, there's a lot more power for you to open up the doorways for other people. So back to the answer to the question succinctly is, be the best person that you can be, and everything else will come to you. It will be attracted to you, and you will have the next legs of your journey or your mission brought to you, whatever it is going to be.
Ashe.
If you want to be a spiritually dynamic person, it starts with the basics of getting your character in order first.
Galacticus is a home that you can come to for your spiritual knowledge, spiritual nourishment.
I have more clarity, I have more spiritual power. Just things have gotten better. My life has gotten a lot easier since I started, so it's just been an amazing ride, and I am an initiate.
I'm here today to ascend, become enlightened.
Well, for me, I grew up as a Christian like a lot of other people too, and I just feel like I resonate way more with spirituality and the things that Free Master is teaching. You can't learn it anywhere else.
Galighticus means everything to me. It's grounded me, it's given me peace.
And really just an accelerant to your spiritual journey.
You guys beat out all of the other millions and millions of sperm to be in your seat right now. Isn't that amazing?
And right there, that is letting you know that Galighticus is possibly your spiritual family, if you would allow it to be.
Galighticus. Forever. And ever.
Join us today for 3 unique presentations. Apotheosis, Friday, August 30th. Ultra Nahata, Saturday, August 31st. Awakenings, Sunday, September 1st. in Atlanta, Georgia. Early bird tickets and discount room and group rates are available at events.Galighticus.com.